All right, well, welcome back, folks. High Point Esports, the FIU Panthers marching and facing off in what will be an interesting matchup here, as we mentioned before the break, a bubble match for what will be the first round playoff inside of the Southeast Division. Because realistically, you know, with all the Division 1 teams making the playoffs, all that you're really fighting for is making sure you get that first round bye and trying to get as high of placing as you can. But before we get into that, a big thank you and shout out to the people that make this possible. First and foremost, thank you, fandom, as well as America's Navy as well. You know, the thing is lots of people love to travel, but they don't really have the funds expendable for places they'd like to go. However, with America's Navy, you're provided the ability to travel the country and the world while diving into over 60 career fields such as nuclear engineering, information systems, and even some programs that you might not think the Navy that might be synonymous with, like music, journalism, so much more. Thanks again to America's Navy for being a huge part of the CCO. Talking about our match, though, overall, Amber, you know, FIU comes into this one just a bit underpowered, I think, in a lot of ways. Excuse me, High Point comes into this a bit underpowered, I think, a lot of ways. A lot of people at the top of the season kind of forecasted this team to be one of those, you know, maybe late playoff sneak teams that we've kind of seen them be in the past. Again, you know, synonymous with High Point, you think Sexton immediately right out of the gate. But we'll take a look at this roster here and really just kind of do a deep dive overall, because there have been a lot of things that have gone wrong for this team over the years, or over this season so far, and I don't really know if there's truly much remedy for it except just trying to shoot through it.
Yeah, that kind of a layman's way, but really practical way to put it in a sense. They really just have to try to work through some of these hurdles they've, you know, come up against, and do their best to see where that puts them come postseason. I mean, sitting at, you know, the 6th seed respectively in this division Southeast, it's one where sure they're looming on the possibility of getting bounced outside of top 8, but for them it definitely is possible for them, given that, you know, they still, after tonight, no matter how it goes, still play against another quote-unquote bubble team in UCF. So again, they have the possibility to still make sure they keep that top 8 lock, but it's one where it's going to be hard fought for them for sure.
Yeah, you know, there's not really much left for them to play in terms of difficult opponents besides maybe UCF. But again, you know, that's kind of where we come from, where it's like that lock kind of thing, where High Point should realistically have a nice, you know, kind of first round bye in that regard. There shouldn't be too much trouble, even for a struggling High Point roster. They have played a few close series against, again, some of those mid-pack teams. They're also fighting for their top spot, but you know, this season the CCL is a little bit different. There are going to be teams that you see like High Point that are at 3 and 4, and you kind of sit there and you're like, that's kind of strange for this team. However, there's a lot more competition at the top ends of a lot of these pools, especially in Division 1, having to place your way into it, opposed in the past just kind of having, like, you know, 2 stages to the season where you kind of converge with the best teams at the end. We already had a good kind of idea of who would be at the top coming into this year, so I don't necessarily have any qualms with what High Point has struggled with so far. All I can kind of hope for is that they get better going into the future. But talking about FIU, this Florida team has also had their fair share of struggles at 3 and 6. We'll introduce ourselves to the roster here, but you know, with Miggy, Dwanchi, Gio, and Gonzi, Amber, you know, so little time left and still some formidable opponents such as HPU to play. It doesn't really feel like this team's going to be in much of a spot to contest for top 8.
Yeah, it's one where they've kind of shot themselves in the foot. You know, they really have put themselves in a position where you're losing matches against opponents that maybe you should have been able to take care of, and now you see yourself, you know, no pun intended, clawing your way into that top 8 position. They're sitting at 10, so on the outside looking in, not only are they hoping for a big win tonight, but as we kind of talk about with High Point, they don't play any more bubble teams the rest of the season, so it's kind of going to be up to some other notable matches maybe going on this week, specifically even between Moxcott sitting at 8 and Newberry sitting at 7. It's going to be looking and saying, hey, hopefully some of the cookie can crumble our way and put us in a favorable spot. Again, they still make playoffs, of course, and that's going to be the exciting thing of being in Division 1, but that first round bye would definitely make that playoff road a bit easier.
Yeah, it's kind of like a definition time when you're looking at FIU, because it's like, are we panning you up as being like a dark horse top 32 team, or are you just going to be one of those teams that it's like, oh well, you know, they got the first round bye, or maybe they made the playoffs, but that's about as far as they go, and you know, getting in D1, you know, kind of helped out with that placing. You know, I don't want to put that on them just yet, but a lot of people are going to be like, oh well, the CCL season just started, and really, although it did, we've only got like another week of regular season play before we start talking about, LCQ time. So it's do or die time at this point in juncture. So looking at the head-to-head, 3-4 to 3-6, neither team really having a great season so far, at least High Point. It's manageable here. A win here can get you back to 4-4, and some of the other matches that you have yet to play could also put you up a peg in that regard too. So, we're talking about them being a potential bubble team, but they could also jump up in the standings and leapfrog a few teams as well to get a higher seeding. So it's not all, doom and gloom, but their S&D really needs to turn around, as you can see.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, though their season may not be doom and gloom, you get into kind of the nitty gritty of these map counts and these mode records. It looks doom and gloom for both sides, apart from High Point's 8-3 hardpoint. The search and destroy is really not great for either team. The controls, I mean, sure, some of those could be, round 5 coin tossy type situations, but again, the only maybe saving grace mode for High Point at this point will be that HP that comes in the forms of map 1 and 4, and one that they need to look at this point and say, hey, let's build upon this where we can. Of course, you want to do and get good reps in your search and destroy and control respectively, but again, you find yourself winning a pair of hard points in the series, and seeing that you only need to take maybe an S&D or a control somewhere in there, that's not a bad position to be in, right? So for High Point, there are points where they can look and say, hey, we can build upon what we have and look to maybe try to snag another map or mode here and there. And then for to the side of FIU, again, same type of thing. They're 500 in the hard points, not as great in the search and destroy and control, but we'll take a look at our map set tonight and see maybe if this gives us any insight to what the series will look like for these teams, and see maybe where they can try to walk away with some good wins.
It's interesting to see the bans from FIU before we actually take a look at our series. Just double hotel there. It's kind of crazy to me too, because like High Point, they like playing that hotel search and destroy, but the times that I've seen them play it, they've actually lost it, and it seems like it also tailors to their play style a little bit too, which is a bit confusing for me. I guess they just probably need to put some more things together, but regardless, Embassy to start things off on that hard point, a fortress search and destroy, and then a hotel control will be where we kind of find ourselves throughout this map set. I don't really think it's much of a contest here. You can see there was really no veto for control. I'm sure a fortress is kind of an auto veto for a lot of these teams, as I hate to say it. But again, like, what do you expect of FIU in map 1? You expect them to try and challenge High Point, but with a team that is as good in hard point as High Point has been, you're again kind of looking at that Neslo series, as you were pointing to earlier, for this FIU roster to be able to take this series. So, even if High Point, struggles a little bit in the first map, I don't think it'll be too much of a problem for them. Just a little bump in the road, maybe a pothole, but doesn't pop a tire or break an axle. They should be able to keep the engine running, the car going, and smoothly sail to a map 1 hardpoint win. So I'm not too worried about them in that regard.
Yeah. Well, for FIU, an interesting stat to note for them, though they're 5-5 in the hard points, they've walked away with the lion's share of map 1. So again, this map is very critical for them to get off on the right foot in this series. You're going up against, as we were saying, a team that's sitting at 7-8-3 in hardpoint, and need to find a way to come out strong here. This first map will be very telling of the series, I think. You always hate to point things as doom and gloom, like this map 1, sure, it's not a must win for FIU, but they get themselves off on the best momentum if they can take that map 1. It's usually the search and destroy where things maybe start to get that hitch for them there and they can't quite bounce back, but we've seen them several times this year take that first map against good hardpoint teams and end up losing the map 4 later on down the line. Can they get off to that start here behind, again, good AR play, good SMG play? It's got to be all around good, and map control as well. This is one where you have to be firing on all cylinders through all 4 players to find success. And High Point off to a decent start here as they have the right-hand side control for now. Time up for grabs though, but FIU open up at the first 10.
Yeah, like what FIU did here. Off the rip, you saw Wanchi and Miggy try to go ahead, break over towards the right side of the map to get those P2 spawns. High Point didn't allow that, but as they started to make their way back over towards P1 to try and get some time, they actually allowed the Panthers to kind of claw back around, get into the P2 spawn. So it'll actually be on the side of High Point to break over to P2 once we eventually get to that hill. For the time being, though, first hill, last 15 seconds of scrap time should go the way of purple and the High Point Panthers. And, well, as quickly as we needed them to break into the hill, they do just that and don't really leave many Panthers left behind. They're just going to be wagging their tails between their legs and trying to get back over to the hill after potential break.
P2 looks to pop. High Point in control. Sexton going to try to play this mid-map cutoff and finds a kill there. Clean kill feed for now through everyone in the first 10 or so seconds, going your way smoothly as well. Now you see them get the first wave of kills, look to try to push out and keeping them spawned tennis court, no truck side, but Geo gonna slip to the back. Are they gonna be aware of it in a second? You see Brewing turn around and maybe he's got an idea here that someone's behind.
I love what High Point does there, because although they might not necessarily know that they're going to be able to force, a split spawn out from the Panthers there, they at least allow themselves a little bit of breathing room. And sure, maybe that wayward spawn is going to allow the Panthers to maybe get into this hill. But there's going to be constant pressure here from High Point, which is the big thing that they're always going to constantly be trying to do. In these last 15 seconds, FIU, but they're thinking, oh yeah, it's going to be uncontested. No, they go back for a challenge. So with about 12 seconds left, it is FIU who set up on the rotation yet again. But if this is anything like the last time through, High Point should be able to break in pretty easy.
And High Point taking up so much of the map. I mean, they were trying to pin them in this top left corner as they work across the P3. They have really maintained possession of majority of this map, spawning them in 25% of it, taking up the other 75%. And you see it all purple kill feed as a result, a 50-point lead and climbing the entire team, looking to streak here. I mean, a combined 9 spree for the squad as a whole. So for FIU, already being put in the mix early, and that's off of good map control out of High Point.
I mean, we're just seeing 4 down after 4 down, and that's really the difference maker here. You can try to get out of your spawn, you can try to make any play that you want to together, but if you're not able to win gunfights in succinct succession across the map with the rest of your teammates, you're not going to be able to win maps. And with a 94-14 scoreline, this game is already broken out of the water. Devilish is at himself 9-1. You have 9-7 from Sexton, but multiple streaks across the board here from the High Point Esports roster. Realistically speaking, if you are FIU, this is do or die hill. If you don't hold at least 40 seconds here, you're pretty much shooting yourself in the foot and walking away from game 1 with a loss.
High Point Esports have taken the pace to Florida International from the rip. And as you had said, gunfights seldomly going your way here, and maybe that could be a start. Win some of those freebies, win the ones you're supposed to, and look to get the lion's share of time on this hill. So far, they're off to a good start to go down their way. They've got things locked down in the back, and they'll find another as well. So they hold off the first push. First 20 seconds have gone their way cleanly. Now what more can they find behind it?
It's nice. They have the answer for the aggression. They win the first gunfights around, the mid portion of the map, but then, High Point kind of did something wrong. They just filing through the doors one by one. You can't do that if you're going to try for a challenge, even if FIU is giving you the opportunity to do that for the majority of the map. So I called for, a good 40-50 seconds here. High Point the FIU Panthers, they've answered that call. They've gotten themselves the majority of the time there, and sure, 15 seconds of scrap time might go back to the purple side of High Point, but FIU, once again, they've got themselves set up over on the next hill. They just cannot allow themselves to get broken in like P1 and 2.
Absolutely. If they can find a way to chain this and once again continue winning the majority of the time, that's going to bode very well for them. I mean, they're realistically a full 60 from just about tying this game. So High Point's going to get aggressive. They're going to fly at him here to try to get an early break on P5, and they do just that. All purple in the kill feed once again. They're in the first 10 or so seconds. Now looking to garner time for themselves. Lead back out to 80 points. Gunfights continuing to go their way. FIU need to make a mixie here quick.
Throwing Cruz playing a cross angle here. Waiting for anybody to maybe get in through the back door, but it's Sexton who's going to lock things down with a nice double kill. And there's Cruz. Maybe Wanchi gets a consolation kill there, but it's a 3-1 trade here, which forces FIU to have to wait to break this as a unit together once again. And the lead continues to stay at 100 points. The gap climbing yet again for the Panthers here now. And as Sexton hops into the front door, he'll get cut down. Brewing tries to snap back around for the second. Needs to challenge us and will. I don't know if I love going for it with 35 HP, but when you're frying like High Point is, anything's possible. And well, at least he'll get that gunfight and give himself a little pat on the back.
A few seconds, we'll kick off the second set of rotations here where, for High Point Esports, you are realistically a money hill and then some change away from closing this one out. All purple on the feed once again. They're going to try to garner whatever P1 time they can, but they know that this game will be won on P2 for them if they can make that the case. FIU Panthers simply with no rebuttal to what High Point Panthers have brought out here in map number 1. They need to make a stand sooner than later. 3 down in the feed might just get them that. They're going to have to fight for this P1 time, and they're going to have to look to take the battle as the next hill pops as well. But for now, one step at a time. High Point Esports, though, meeting them at every turn.
I was going to say, that's like your second or good, clean hard kill feed that went your way. The first time you're able to get about 40 seconds over on P4. This time it's in the middle of the map where the spawns are just chaotic and High Point can retaliate as quickly as they want to. So maybe the kill's not coming in at the best times. The slaying isn't necessarily not there for FIU. It's just a little bit more lackluster than what High Point's being able to put up for themselves. It's been high octane so far, but High Point's just been in control of the map the whole time. FIU are spawning where High Point want to put them, and they're just constantly able to be behind them at every stretch and every point. And yeah, FIU might be getting on the board here, for 15-20 seconds in between, and that's all fine and dandy. You're still down by 100 points, and High Point really hasn't lost that gap or margin throughout the whole hard point. So do what you will, say what you want. High Point are still going to continue to, kind of roll and flow here. FIU just don't have an answer for it, and all the answer is gunfight wins, and you're not getting them.
Yeah, even at this point, right, if they continue to find time, you said they keep it at that 100-point stiff farm. It's just too much to overcome now, especially with, well, you said it best, how high octane this Panthers squad is playing. 20 seconds left on P2, and FIU won't even give it another look. They know that if they're going to get anything going, it's got to start with the money hold on P3. High Point aware of the same, and they look to be applying pressures with their subs. Subs for the side of FIU going to take those gunfights. Initially, it's another clean kill feed where they've been able to find time behind it, but the question is, how long can they hold on before High Point get in?
Last time it was about 10 seconds. This time they might make it 5 if they try hard enough. But up the staircase, it is going to be Sexton who falls. A 3-kill feed now for the FIU Panthers is going to be yet again, a good glimpse of hope that we want to see. Gio, stay down. You don't have to challenge that gunfight on Brewing. You have 3 other teammates around the hill, but you wanted to challenge it, and now Brewing has himself a streak to work with and utility to break into the hill. Curse is going to throw a Semtex and a nade up over the top. Miggy will be weakened up at 24 HP, and even if he jumps up the ladder, a contestant here close immediately might just be the disaster that FIU were waiting to happen. And now as the streak comes in, it forces everybody out of the hill, and High Point now can get back across the map and try to get themselves for a break.
I think High Point might just hang tight and say, you know what, we'll just win it with 30 seconds off P4. I mean, a good nade will connect. That'll at least keep Florida International off of it. But with this gunfight seemingly being won in the back here, or High Point at least aware of it, this new hill looks to pop in 5 or so seconds, and Panthers are going to look to try to close this one out. Florida International, as you had said, just really having no answer, whether it be slaying, whether it be map control. They can't seem to get anything generated.
This was the money hill last time for FIU, where they were able to get themselves a significant amount of time. It was the most they held down in one hard point throughout the entirety of the embassy so far. Miggy kill there on the Devilish. Kurz will be there for a nice trade. Gio into the hill for a good little pop back, but as Brewing's in the front door, he's got one and a second lined up, isn't able to make quick work of the third. However, it's Sexton who is going to be there, and with 15 seconds left, all High Point need to do now is just win a couple more key gunfights through the front door. FIU, 2 gunfights go their way. Last person in the hill is going to be Sexton, challenge in FIU. Last second break. Good news is they didn't get 100-point clubbed in this game.
7 seconds needed. I wouldn't be shocked if they send a sub, maybe just to give it a look. Florida International going to have to fly, try to get an early P5 break here, but High Point are going to get set up for P5. No, they just need a handful of seconds to close this one out, and with mid-map control like that and kills going their way, they should be sitting pretty to close this one out.
Oh, Kitchen Hill is here. Miggy's the only one for FIU who's close to it. And as they put that last player down and 6 seconds ticks off the clock, no one will be close for a contestation. It'll all end in the kitchen. They're going to be cooking up Panther well done here tonight. First map goes the way to High Point, 250 to 136.
Both parts of the game go hand in hand. When you control the map and influence, what lane Florida International is pushing down, well, you win a lot of gunfights a bit easier. And if you're winning gunfights really easy, you can move around the map, influence spawns how you want. So High Point Esports, well aware of the ebb and flow of all of the facets of the game, and play it to a T here. 120 or so point lead as they close that one out. And Embassy Hardpoint done, dusted, over with. High Point, they are firing. We kind of talked how they've been struggling at times, but realistically, this is a team they should be beating to this capacity. So doing their job, executing well around the map, and are off to a good series start.
Yeah, it was the talk of the town at the top of the show. We said, hey, that 3-4 record might not be so indicative of how High Point has played so far. They've had to play some really tough and stern competition at the top of the Southeast Division. But again, FIU, as Cash just said, it's a team that you should be beating. And as long as you're able to take those matches in stride, you can get back to that 4-4 record. You still have games against, I believe, Mox and LSU to be able to play against. But that could easily put you at 6-4. That last match against UCF, you could be talking about a 7-4 record before things are all said and done, or the opposite at 4-7, depending on how those matches go. I think High Point still has a lot of audacity on this roster, and I think that they could genuinely be, one of those top 5, maybe even 4 seeds here instead of the Southeast, but it all depends on how a couple more matches go, and if they can fix the struggles that they've been having. Brewing is always going to be able to play well. Devilish and Sexton have always been a good trio together. It's all just how you're able to pair everybody on every single map, and if you can continue to make the proper adjustments throughout the game, then Modern Warfare 2 is constantly going to thrive.
Absolutely, and I think even a bigger point to take is you talk about the hurdles they've had to overcome, but a big point and a big reason that this High Point team could be maybe a sleeper team going into playoffs is, do you plateau when the regular season ends, or do you continue to show upward trajectory? Playing at this level right now, and as you had said, kind of shaping up, if they continue to win, could finish at a 7-4 record potentially. One where they could absolutely, show that trajectory and put themselves in a good spot come the postseason if they continue to learn and grow. Now, again, still early on the season, not to do too much foreboding as to what could come in the future, but just showing how high the ceiling and the potential is for this team is something that can't be overstated. And for Florida International, again, the slaying flow on one side, it's not that you were grossly outslayed per se, more so just how much of a mixer you were put in, given that you couldn't get map control, you couldn't buy a gunfight to get any kind of real estate either. And now you have to look into a Fortress Search and Destroy to find a way to bounce back to level the series. One where, again, you're boasting a 1-7 Search and Destroy record, so it's not looking great as far as odds are concerned, but hey, anything can happen here.
I mean, at least to, put a softening blow on that, although you do have a 1-7 hard or search and destroy record, you look to the other side, High Point's only got 2 wins in the mode. So at least it's like relatively even in that regard. And Fortress is one of those maps where like you can play a bit more mixy and just try to get in the backlines of your opponent. Mm-hmm. A lot of, you want to force a site out, you can probably do it. If you want to get over towards, it's going to be a little difficult, but I mean, trying to get over to the A site is just a nightmare. So regardless of everything that's said, for FIU, yeah, maybe it's doom and gloom after map 1, but you have an S&D to potentially take off of High Point. It's not that hard, right?
Right? Yeah.
No, it's hard.
Yeah, hard. Absolutely the case. It's one where, but if you're gonna look to try to get better, it's got to start here. Yeah, you can't get better week in and week out unless you have a starting point. And for both teams, they can very much make that case here tonight. You've already seen a Search and Destroy that was dominated by First Bloods, dominated by well-executed play calls on either side of the bomb. And plain and simple, Search and Destroy, that's kind of at its bare bones what it plays at. How well can you execute on both sides of the bomb? And again, First Blood's so pivotal in a mode like Search and Destroy that, yeah, you kind of dominate in those columns. You're probably looking at a Search and Destroy win. So, you like to get into the analytics of it all. You like to get into the strategies and what all you can do. But realistically, win those opening gunfights and look to try to, again, influence both sides of the bomb. And you should be sitting all right if you keep it at its bare bones, but, things get mixier and more complicated than that. For either team, though, they're trying to make a good stand here in map 2. And again, I would say that those are Cash's tips on the 2 best ways to get that started.
Well, it's Cash's corner, and we're all just living in it. What she says is Bible around here, so it's one of those things where you word, and well, it usually does me well. One thing I will say though is there is a storm here passing through South Florida, bringing some severe weather across the state. So maybe Florida International is just having a bit of lag due to some rain or something like that over in their facility. So yeah, that's definitely it. Regardless, First Blood is going to go to the side of FIU. Wanchi's going to be able to find himself one onto the board. Nice little trade back nade from Sexton will find Geo. So in a 2 versus 3 on defense, High Point need to find their way to struggle back over towards the A side.
Fully aware that Press is pushing through the back, and your teammate and Sexton is gonna find a kill on the other side, so he's gonna try to get back to help his teammate, but Wanji won the kill. A 1v2 when they know, at least for Sexton, won that gunfight. Unfortunately, they don't have any A site control. They're not sure where he could have scurried off to, so looking for a freebie, looking for some information now, but Sexton looking to play the clock here as he pops steady.
1 versus 2, but this is a very winnable round here. So long as he can get some good timing here. Once he's the first one up to challenge. Doesn't realize that he has Miggy also playing in that same breath. But as he's able to get back away. Oh my god, once again, he might be able to get some good timing here. But no, it's Miggy who walks away with the good god timing. Shoots Sexton in the back, which would have been an ace in a 1 versus 3 for himself. High Point got dangerously close to being able to take that round away. Florida International, they'll be on the board first.
They go out, they win the first 2 gunfights. Only thing I would have liked to have seen out of Florida International to make that round any amount easier was stick that bomb at the A side. I mean, they had control because they won those gunfights. High Point really didn't have anyone to contest it, so had they gotten that bomb down sooner, I think the round would have gone a bit easier either way. They walk away with the first one here. High Point now offensively, what can you do as well? Florida off to a decent start.
Oh, mate, there you go. Get the bomb. Gonna help you out big time. Interesting enough, FIU hasn't actually pushed anybody over towards the A site, but of course, High Point have no idea that nobody's over there. They could get a free bomb plant down with FIU playing so far back across the map. Sexton ain't going to be out, isn't going to spot anything. No information given to High Point just yet. As they get out onto the site, at least open the doors up, they're starting to make their way forward and know that they have the site clear. If they want to get onto the A-bomb, they might be able to do just that. Miggy could be dangerously close to hopping out of the doorway, but he'll be forced to back off with 39 HP. At least he survives with his life.
Gio able to find a good pick at Gallows to open up with another first blood. Now with that player following High Point, not confident in trying to stick this bomb. You know the class could be coming at any point. Gonzi finds one, Wanchu finds two, and that's going to be the round. Florida International, through these first couple of rounds, clinical on their collapse around the site and in finding those kills there. A flawless round for them. And I mean, again, you had called it coming into the map, right? How loose can you get around the map? How can you find an opening to get through the back and in the enemy lines? There, Florida International putting on a masterclass of it in that round.
It could be first map jitters. Again, High Point, very good, and Hard Point where things are concerned. But no one can discredit 2 quick rounds here at FIU. A chance for some adjustments here for High Point on the opposite side. They're going to get aggressive here over towards A. Player number 5 and player number 8, it's going to be Sexton and Cruz. Waiting for a few players on the FIU side to push onto that A zone. As Miggy goes with the pre-fire, they're going to know at least some information that one player is here from FIU. Nobody else has crossed over towards the middle portion of the map, so High Point know that they have FIU essentially trapped and cornered over towards that A site.
Sexton will find the first blood and bottom art Devilish on the chase as Guanchi is looking to retreat. He was the island player, kind of watching the flank, but Gonzi at least able to clean up that kill as well. It's a 2v3 though, and again, you aren't in a position to get this bomb down. The lack of objective play has made these rounds harder for FIU, and that's credit this round to High Point, and as you would call it, their aggressive position. Sexton also aggressive through art.
I mean, Miggy's essentially trapped here. Nowhere to go. Yeah, maybe if you try to get onto the bomb, you can get it down, but you're going to have 2 players who are ready to chase out the door, and Sexton, who can fly out at any time. He's going to pop that dead silence, though, directly get behind his teammate. It's actually Gonzi who doesn't get any timing on Sexton on the staircase. But they also have no idea where this player is in the back line. So as Miggy's able to find one, it makes it a 2 versus 2. A little bit different now. The feeling of the round has actually gone in the way of FIU, as now the time restriction is on the side of High Point. Gonzi isn't able to find the first, snaps to the second, but it's Cruz who wins the one-on-one gunfight. 23 seconds. All Miggy needs to do now is play this time. Cruz actually could have hopped this already, but can Miggy get up the staircase? Would love to see him lay down here. He's going to go for a defuse, forces him out the doorway. 1v1 gunfight. Miggy's going to be able to win it on the re-challenge in a round that could have gone very easily to High Point. It's the FIU Panthers who clutch up and win 3 straight.
Got the bomb down. Play the time around it. Miggy, though, after getting the bomb down, ends up flying out single window to find a kill. So a good job not, you know, at times, right, knowing what to do and what not to do. Opted to not play a corner. Ended up countering aggression with aggression. Flying out and shooting players in the back. So a heads-up round, 3 in the round. Out of Miggy there, or at least a couple. And Florida International, I mean, you start to look at a 3-0 here and say, okay, they've really got something going for them.
Absolutely, and you know, I'll admit it. You know, I didn't really have much hopes going in for FIU with the way that High Point were able to take map number 1. But again, they're 2 completely different modes for a reason, and although the 1-7 record might say otherwise, last year it taught us that we can't really trust the records and the stats all that much, because every series is going to be different depending on who the team is playing. Sexton will open up the round with the first blood. Bomb isn't going to go down onto the site. It's actually a snipe over the top from Gio that will cup the bomb, planter down. However, now it's another 2 versus 2 as Brewing is able to get an equalizing trade. They should be able to get this bomb down onto A, because nobody has eyes on Gonzi. He might be able to spot the gun out the window.
What timing can you find? Nothing being given up, bomb going down as well. So 1v2 retake necessary. Gonzi with the right idea. Will he be on the better side of timing? We'll have to find out now. 35 seconds to work with. No information on where this player are. And unfortunately has a trophy system. So they should be hearing all of this momentarily.
Be a big round for Gonzi. Doesn't have dead silence. Has the trophy system. Brewing shots in the top. And he knows the teammates in the corner for a nice little bait and switch. So High Point will finally get themselves on the round. Beautiful little 1-2 combo.
Playing off the information they had. Taking advantage of the man advantage. And no better time to find a way to strike back. Now they draw it up 3-1. As they're going to go back defensively to try to make a stand.
Miggy has been the shining star here for FIU so far. A lot of these rounds have opened up with first bloods. Clutch still with a late 1 versus 2 for his team. And well, there you have it. Another first blood will go his way as Gio finds Cruz in the round. High Point once again, but at a low man advantage, 2 versus 4 against this high-flying Panthers roster in the search and destroy. This is a completely different team that we're seeing out of the team in white. Well, if you're an FIU fan, you certainly love to see it.
High Point just not aware that this B push was coming in as quickly as it was. Before you can even turn around, 2 kills are found through mid-map. Gonzi finds another there as they're rotating towards the side, and Devilish's position going to be made known. Those players going to collapse in bottom maps. And FIU Panthers, as quickly as High Point were able to take 1 offensive round, good execution, quick decision-making for the side of Florida International warrants them another.
I'll say this, Cash. You know, the gripe that I had with FIU in map 1, and the reason I didn't think they'd be able to come out in such a strong fashion on Fortress was the fact that they weren't playing together, like, whatsoever. A lot of the hills, unless, you know, everybody was able to win a gunfight for themselves, they were pushing 1 by 1 by 1. There was almost no trades ever throughout that first hard point, and that's why the margin was so high. But here, you know, you see everybody starting to make the plays. After, you know, a first blood comes through, everybody's in the right positioning that they need to be. And once again, FIU will open the floodgates up. A first blood there from Gio will get things going. Excuse me, from Gonzi will get things going. And at 6-1, Miggy's still alive. High Point are just kind of scrambled on the map right now. Nobody's going to be allowed to get over towards B, because you see player number 3 and Gonzi all the way in the back line, but at least the cross is going to get called out. So could be a hit here from High Point. All they need to make sure that they do is cut this player all the way in the back line spawn. He's playing such a great angle. It could trigger discipline. Tries to snap up for the second, is able to win the 1 versus 1. Headshot onto Cruz. He's got 1 player left alive in his Brewing, who's trying to clutch up for his team again. Miggy, hello, jump shot, Poppy. Bunny hop across the screen is going to be able to win FIU their next round and force match point.
Easter right around the corner. Florida International wasting no time with it. Miggy getting jiggy with it. It's out to 7-1 as they're sitting at map point, and it's just, I mean, the position of Gonzi in the back lines to wait out the B push and have an idea that maybe they could try something like that. Again, really no gripes with Florida International on their rebound in this search and destroy. They've dominated the first blood column. They've executed well around the bomb site on either side of the coin. Look, search can be a simple game if you wanted to.
Another first blood for FIU. At least there's a trade here from Brewing. Somehow escapes down the staircase through the wall bangs. Now as FIU can get this bomb down, it's going to restrict High Point once again to a 45-second timer, but a well-timed flank here from Cruz is going to be able to cut down at least the first. Fighting chance here for High Point in the round as Brewing's through the doorway. 1 versus 3. Gonzi the last alive. It's Brewing who pops another with 3 in the round. High Point have been able to go ahead and resurface themselves in the S&D. Unfortunately for themselves, though, it's going to take another 3 to at least tie this game in 4 straight to be able to take the search and destroy.
I think the flank is really what opened that up, as you had called. It's great timing there on the sniper in the back. Your teammates are able to get crazy, flood out through art door, and find the kills behind it. Great round out of them, but as you were saying, still quite a steep mountain ahead of you.
Here we go for High Point. Has to be a flawless offensive round here to really start giving yourselves a chance. Defense monumentally easier here on Fortress. Not letting a team get the bomb down, obviously the goal every single time, but a stun check there is going to give information to the side of High Point. Sexton reloads in the middle of a potential gunfight challenge from Wanchi. As Gonzi's able to find 1, it's a pinstripe kill feed that leaves things in a 2 versus 2, and the last one will fall from High Point. A quick round that ends in the span of 20 seconds time, and the FIU Panthers, they'll have themselves on the board here. A search and destroy goes their way. They'll find their 2nd in the season, now at a 2-7 record, but it's going to help them keep themselves even-headed against a series of High Point.
Really aggressive, stacked up heavy towards that A site. Everyone able to win their gunfights and then some. Again, for Florida International, you won the lion's share of first bloods there in that one, which was a big portion of, I think, for High Point, maybe 3 or so rounds. You were able to walk away with the first blood. And even then, you didn't even take the rounds on top of that for a couple of them. So, again, Florida International doing a good job at making mid-round adjustments where they need to, executing well off of their breaks towards, you know, the B site where they found a lot of success. So many things they did well in that one. And, yeah, you had said it best. They looked a bit disconnected. They looked a little out of sync. In that map 1 here, not the case at all.
Yeah, no. They made Fortress their stronghold, and, well, for good reason. They had to keep this series once again at 1-1 tie. But again, there was big moments around that happened. The momentum continued to go on their way, and that was one of the things that you were kind of calling for. It's like, how do you, resurrect the search and destroy? How do you give yourselves the upper advantage in a second map? Well, you force the opposition to come for you, but then you also be able to take, 1 versus 2 rounds at the end, especially on that A site where we saw Miggy go big, and then it was just constant first blood after constant first blood. FIU were scrambling around the map, and really High Point was just shoveled around, and they had no answer for what FIU was throwing at them. I think that's probably the last thing that they expected was such a collective unit out of the Panthers roster, because I don't think, even based on statistics or anything that we've seen from them previous, would have been able to kind of build us up for what they were going to put out.
Absolutely. So now, I have even more questions going into this control about either team, right? We knew going into the Search and Destroy that neither were faring out. I thought it was going to be a no you win round 11 type of S&D. I did not expect it to be as clean and concise out of Florida International. So again, got to give flowers where they're due. For High Point now, the series is tied up 1-1. You're going back into a respawn where, again, you boast it's still a losing record at 2-4, 2-6 for Florida International. So again, for either team, I'm just interested. I think is the best word I can use to describe it, of how they're going to come out in this mode respectively. We're going to go to Hotel 1, where again, a lot of teams kind of can make their haven and home. You look to Vito though earlier, the Asilo, and we're not playing Fortress, so I just interested, excited, what are these teams going to bring here in our second respawn?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about like a definition point in time for FIU, saying like, are we going to count you as a top 32 dark horse, or are you just going to be in the spot that you were in because you made playoffs from being in Div 1? Now I look to High Point to answer the same question. The search and destroy struggles continue. We look to see how you would face against a weaker opponent in the mode, and you still failed pretty miserably at that. So on the other side of a break, we'll see what the control can have in store for either of these two teams. Which team will take the mantle hold on the series? Well, we'll just have to wait and find out. Don't go too far. The CCL will be back. Well, it was a great bounce back from the side of FIU. Maybe unexpected to a lot, myself included. I didn't think they would be able to bounce back in such a hard-hitting fashion. But now it's on the side of High Point to be able to kind of resurrect themselves a series, retake the mantles on this. But really, that's kind of been the struggle for them of recent. Cash, what's kind of the big thing that they need to do to really get back into the driver's seat of this best of 5?
Sure. Maps 1 and 4, even in the series they're losing, they're walking away with the hard point. We talked about it coming into tonight. They're a very strong hard point team through and through. So really, any other map they've been able to snag, they walk away with the series. 1 and 4s feel like givens for the squad. And again, I'm going to hedge my bets on them boding well in this respawn. You don't want to send it to a game 5 if you can avoid it, given how strong Florida International looked in map 2. So for me, High Point, they're hinging their series on their ability to take this hotel control. They know that they have a lot of success in the hard point, given whatever map it could be on. I think this hotel is going to be a very pivotal one for them here.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's really not much other to say than High Point, good respawns, lackluster search. FIU, not really strong in any one given mode. But again, that was the question coming into the series. They hadn't taken, all but one series win when you account like the FFs and everything like that they've had throughout the year. So it's difficult to say oh yeah, this FIU squad really good in this mode, really great in this mode, not so good in this mode, but they could kind of keep up here. And so, as much as it's a cool thing to say we have the stats, we haven't seen enough of them to really back up everything against mid-pack teams, against teams that are along the lines of what High Point is giving, along the lines of like Moxcott and stuff like that. So this is a big turnaround series for them, and really a do or die moment of the season, because again, they are on the bubble for this top 8 seed, and if they're not able to get that, they could greatly suffer come playoff time, and that'll just potentially be the end of their season. But nice double back-to-back there, tries to snap to the third for Gonzi. Regardless, though, they are able to get over towards the A zone for that first tick of progress. The defense struggling a bit here early on, but getting into the restaurant is a lot easier than flying over towards the P zone.
I think the ARs for Florida International also starting to make their impact known. It started in the search, and here Wanchi, Gonzi off to great starts as they look to get this A site captured with over 2 minutes on the clock. So High Point, they're going to cut their losses. They're going to get set up top bed and look to try to hold the line here for the next couple of minutes. Live still relatively close, trading gone well, but again, Florida International, whenever they've been able to dictate the pace and control the tempo, well, they've been looking good here tonight. We'll see if they can continue that as they make their way towards B.
This little pre-aim push out the door there for Devilish will be able to pick off Miggy for the first of a few, but as Gio and Wanchi are actually able to start making their way up the map with a nice double kill back-to-back of the round. Gonzi looks to the staircase. It's Gio over the top who's help. Devilish gets through the middle of the map. Wanchi's able to pop himself back for another double. So as the kills continue to come in through for FIU, they continue to neglect the mid portion of the map. But will it matter all that much? 2 ticks of progress. The stack is in. They're looking for the final one here in the middle of the map, continuing to be flooded by High Point. Nobody able to touch the zone. That's a clean cut and concise round from Florida on the offensive push there. The Panthers will go up 1-0 in the control.
Their first push at either site worked for them. Again, you lost a couple lives here and there, but they kept the majority of the play. I mean, that was a 3-stack for the entirety of that B capture. It was the same deal. Again, for Florida, no resistance through that mid portion of the map. As you had said, High Point not able to contest it at any point, and that's because they were continually getting chopped down. It wasn't routes taken by Florida. It wasn't anything crazy. It was simply winning the gunfights in front of them, playing around the objective as a result, and walking away with a very clean, one of the fastest control rounds we've seen.
Devilish looking for the entry kill on the Geo. Will be able to walk away with it. It's 2 kills down in the entirety of the A site, clear for High Point. So basically what FIU did on offense, High Point just do right on back to them. And now Gonzi will be faced with a 1-versus-1 gunfight here, with Devilish being able to go ahead and find himself the crown inside of that 1 versus. Wanchi in the back, Sexton here, but it's FIU who are still on the outside looking in. High Point Esports roster have gotten themselves the first 2 ticks at A, and I don't know if I want to see Wanchi challenge this. They just need to set themselves up in a good position for a few rotations over to B.
Full International, what can you do on this transition? You're gonna, well, try not to give it up as easy as you were able to take it your last round. Geo still playing around Restaurant, trying to turn the heads of a couple of these High Point players, and at least does for Brewing, but it'll walk away with the gunfight at the end of the day. Florida International trying to get set up and in a good position to stop this push, but again, through the mid-map, it is open for now, and High Point, they're here. Can they win the gunfights behind you here on this push?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, High Point love the middle of the map. They did it in their Search and Destroy here on Hotel. Their Hard Point, they do the same thing. They love to occupy it because most teams will give it up for free, and that gives them so much space to work with around the map. So, sure, 3 go down there as they try to get back over towards B on offense. It was a Panthers push that was a little bit more aggressive when they had the offensive mantle, but as Miggy hops down from top bedroom and is now looking over towards the B point, you can see on the north side, that's where those purple arrows are going to start trying to converge over towards that B point on. It's just FIU Panthers are so spread across the map right now. There's a great availability for trades as HPU has now gotten themselves onto the B point.
Wanchi sniffs out the player on the flank. You take care of one player, top bed is gone. He finds another, and now you know the last player is going to be top bed as everyone else is coming off spawn for the Panthers. 60 seconds left. You have a 1 life advantage here, Florida International. They're holding on, and again, look at how much of the map they're taking up, playing around P1. They've got top bed secured. If they can shoot a couple players here in the back, if you're Geo, well, that would be great for you, but for now, they're holding the line.
Brewing through the middle, Gio, nice one behind as well. 3 straight 11 kills from him here in the second round of the control. His High Point started this one out quickly by getting into the restaurant. Ever since then, it's really been all FIU from that point out, but a couple more kills here could genuinely net them a push over towards the B zone. All it takes is 1-4 down for everything to start to turn around as Miggy's legs get shot out down below in Brewing. This is where High Point have now gotten into the back line and really can start wreaking some havoc here. Gonzi falls. Wanchi over the top, dead. Sexton, beautiful headshot there. A nice double from him is going to allow his team to start stacking the point, and all they need to do is play the head glitches now, as it is FIU trying to get back on a scramble over towards this B point.
First tick of progress and second tick as well. A 4-stack on the same way Florida International won the round. High Point will do the same. It takes a little more time, but when they get the clearance, wasting no time on getting a stack in. We handshake offenses here on the first part of this hotel control. Florida International will be taking the offense once again, but for High Point, again, you find the 4 down, you get the clearance, and you secure the point.
Yeah, recently, like in the last, couple Call of Duties where control has been the prevalent mode, even when 4 down on offense, it could get you onto the zone, but usually the defensive spawns were close enough to allow you to get back to it. I think we have kind of a healthy balance in this game where the defensive spawns are far enough away to punish that 4 down to where it's not you have to get 2 wave kills to be able to push a zone and, hit it collectively. So I think that, really it was a learning curve that teams are still trying to figure out in a lot of ways, but it allows the offense to have much more more of a fighting chance, which is always good in control, especially in the years where it's been very defensive-sided. Regardless of that fact, though, Devilish will walk away with a gunfight kill there onto Wanshi. FIU, they targeted that A zone the last time. They were able to get onto it quick. This time, it's not the same. They're spread out across the map as HPU has started to push that 50-yard line and that spawn deeper and deeper to the left side of the map.
Devilish with a good kill up close and personal at the A site, and while they have kitchen control, they will be spawning all of Florida International at P6, and you trust your ARs, you trust your SMGs like Sexton to be able to take care of business over here. 40 seconds and dwindling. About as much of a spawn trap as you can be in for Florida International offensively. Devilish gives up a touch of kitchen control. That'll let everyone spawn up close. He'll have his hands full here in a moment. That's going to be the clearance you need. That'll be 3 players over at the site. What can Cruz find here?
Slowly working his way around the corner. First gunfight on the Geo will be one they don't necessarily know and look to whine just yet. And as Cruz finds the second one as well. All that's left alive is going to be Wanshi, but the spawns are going to be close in towards the kitchen. Cruz pops up again. I thought maybe he walks away with that gunfight win. That just gave Devilish just enough time to be able to refrag back and try to hit from the right side of the hill. 26-17 is alive separating the two teams. And as they all collapse here onto the hill, it's Sexton who's on 4 in a row and walks away with yet another gunfight win, leaving only 20 seconds left for FIU to push either the A or the B site.
Finally get the player cleared out. Now they're going to look to try to close in the rest of this A progress, and for High Point, they're going to give it up. Panthers now taking so much damage, down 11 lives, as they're going to have to work towards B, whether it be clock, whether it be lives. High Point have done the hard work this round, and now, barring giving up a big play, they should be able to close this one out. Here, Sexton combines for a couple in the mid-map, make that the third possibly. Runs out of ammo as Gonzi flies around the corner, but I think the damage has been done here. Florida International bruised, battered, tattered as they try to find any kind of form for a push.
Bro, if Sexton has more ammo in that weapon, he not only finds that player challenging through the doorway for the third, I promise you he hops back out and tries to challenge Wanshi again because of how weak he was. Sexton's on a mission right now. He does not want this team to go down 1-2 in this best-of-5 series. Well, it's for good reason. 21-9, the life count. All it takes is one good 4 down, though. They've got the back line at least secured right now. So if they can make this pinch happen, and once you can get back to the rest of the team, all it takes is that first domino to fall on High Point, and the FIU Panthers can pounce on the point.
Unfortunately, you've got 20 seconds and dwindling, so the longer you let the clock bleed, the better it's going to be for High Point. Everyone's going to converge. Sexton, as you said, on a tear, going to find kills. It's even in the kill feed. You stop the clock for now, but with so few lives left, one push needing to come back, High Point just need to get back to the point, but FIU close off spawn, going to try to get here for support.
They're going to be close off spawn, but that's the first domino that falls, and all of a sudden everybody's stacking this point, so it's going to have to be through the middle of the map and through the spawn side, and the only one in the middle of the map is Brewing. So the challenge back over to the hill. 3 players are there, but you don't check the right side. Geo on the point. They're going to be able to shut him down with only 2 lives remaining for the Panthers now in just 10 seconds to get back across the map. High Point just desperately in a foot race had to get back over to the zone. They held it off. They'll take the round win, and on defense, it once again got very scary.
Again, that's a testament to the Panthers doing the hard work early in the round. Not only did they keep or do their best to maintain the 10-life advantage, but bled so much of the clock that you didn't have time to hike back across and get back towards B. Make a good hold here. Put themselves at match point up 2-1, and offensively, they just need one more to close it out. Everyone playing well for High Point here.
Well, you survived that defensive round, but now the task is an offensive push, and you're going to send everybody in the forces over towards B to kick things off. Problem is, you've got 2 players from FIU who are also here. Gonzi, tough gunfight for Sexton to be able to walk away with. You know somebody's in bottom bedroom. The opening break goes 3 for the side of FIU. Cruz the last one alive in top bedroom, and now they can start swarming up. Ladder going to be challenged up now by Cruz, and as Wanshi pops a double, now make it 3 on the opposite side of the map. Everybody down at A, and now High Point has to scramble back to either the A or the B zone. Already down 4 lives.
And this gives Florida International to put a little more pressure towards A. Couple players will be here, and off spawn a few more will look to flood as well. It's going to be a 4v3 on the site. Wanshi opens up with another, make that a 3v3 now as his first stick of progress doesn't even come in before Florida International are here, and kills starting to go their way.
Another challenge from Geo, who's had himself a nice little double. FIU, they know the stakes that are here. Obviously don't want to go down 1-2 in the series, but the fact that they're on defense makes that just a little bit easier. They're looking to do the same. HPU was able to get them the round previous. Sexton in from behind onto Geo. First stack going to come in onto the A zone. 2 players here. Now everybody going to be on the point except for player number 6 in Devilish, who's trying to make sure that nobody can rotate back into the spawn side of FIU. Are they going to be able to check for Gonza here? The answer is yes. Snaking backing up and forth. They're going to be able to walk away with that gunfight win, and that's going to give them at least a few more lives back. The A zone secured and an extra minute and 30 to work with.
Sitting in a 9-life discrepancy. 90 seconds to work across the map, as you had said. And Geo with great reads there. Able to snap on Sexton and get the flank taken care of. Now still carving his way through the map and finding kills to go along with it. When's this next push come in at a high point as a couple players come off spawn? Miggy starting to fly through bottom bed and able to find a kill once again. Florida International looking good on this hold.
No, Miggy's been quiet too. That's the crazy thing. But really, FIU has come into their own this round. An 11-life disparity now. 24 kills in this control for Geo, leading the way not only on his team, but the lobby as a whole. Just once he gets cut off that power position, it all comes down really to Gonzi here. If he's able to find 1, he's going to be able to be big, but he gets 2. Now make it a 3rd. A team kill comes in from Miggy. That's fine because Sexton's the last one alive in towards top bedroom. And now he's got a whole slate of kills that he has to work through in order to set his team up again. They took so much time off of the clock to get that B hit, even to get it started. And it all got shut down with 1 player in from behind. You got to tip it to Gonzi. Big play to stay in behind, stay silent, and cut down high point.
Minimal lives left, minimal time left. Same position Florida International was in last go around. They were able to make it work somehow in high point, trying to do what they can to make it work for themselves. Florida International stayed on for 10 or so more seconds to close this one out. I don't even know the high point will get close enough.
I mean, they might be able to go for a hit here, but once again, they have a couple players in from behind that'll shut their push down yet again. This time, it's Geo. He's able to find 1 pinstripe kill feed's only going to allow the last one to be here, and as Brewing will fall, we go to a round 5 here in the control. We go offense for offense, then we handshake defenses back and forth between both of the Panthers rosters. Now it's time. One final round will decide who will take advantage of this oh-so-crucial best-of-5 series in the Southeast.
Florida International should be defense here for our final round. Made a good hold there. Can they do it again? And for high point, can you find success on the offensive go? You wonder if they're going to give it a push over and towards the B side to maybe get some early progress. Slaying hasn't been too much of a problem for him here, but as you said, the Panthers coming to their own in that round. Geo really starting to get things going, really feeling good around the map and making his presence known here. Final round to decide who gets the advantage early on in this series. In high point, they're going to try to look to go towards A.
The one is Sexton. First one pushed up for high point on the map. Snap on a Geo. That'll be the A zone, basically completely free for high point. If I'm FIU, I do not want to push this back. I don't want to drain any more lives over to this point because of how quickly this zone is up. You know that pretty much everybody is here. The full cavalry in from high point. And as Gonzi flies around the corner, he'll get cut down. That's another life off the board for FIU. Sure, there's still 2 players here on the side of high point, but the problem is that's the A zone already gone. You expend a few lives just to lose the zone anyways. And now the offensive team has the advantage with 2 minutes to work with left on the clock and the availability to get over to the B zone with all the reinforcements here.
And they're trying to push quick through mid-map, putting a lot of pressure. You're going to send Sexton through top bed, but Wanchio sniffs that out at the long-range fight. You have a couple players around checking. What can they do as their teammates look to come off spawn and make things easier for their teammate? Brewing going to miss the dive. Wanchio going to punish him for it. And now, Prez being the only player left up in here, Miggy's going to find that kill, and you're able to clear things out for now.
That's a big gunfight win. That shut down the last player. He was going to try and play a bit more passive towards the middle of the map, allow high point to get back into position to get on to B. He doesn't allow that gunfight to walk the way of high point. That forces FIU to be able to play this a bit more in their favor. However, Gonzi doesn't realize that Sexton's coming through the backside of spawn. As that kill comes through, that's going to be 3 down. All they need to manage is 1 more in the middle of the map. But once again, it's Geo in from behind. That could be the saving grace that these Panthers needed to hold high point off of this point. And now up in top bedroom, they don't have him cleared out. There's the first, but he can't snap to the second this time. And it's high point winning all the gunfights throughout the middle of the map. And now all you get to take care of is Miggy. And that should be the last domino to fall. Everybody stacked on the zone now. First tick of progress is in. They're looking for the second, but it's been slowed up by that kill from Gonzi. And as they're all trying to foot race back towards the site, it's Sexton who shuts down yet another crucial lane. Geo dead over the top. The last one coming is Miggy, and nobody's going to be able to get onto the zone for the FIU Panthers. High point. They'll reclaim the series. They'll keep their respawn prowess going, and they'll have a 2-1 lead against the FIU Panthers.
It was a battle to the wire for High Point. They did such a good job at keeping players close. As soon as they got the 3 down, they were able to 3-stack the point quickly. You said they back off of it for a second, but they'd put themselves in such good position to close it out that they're able to take it there. Not only did they win it, but fairly marginally outslayed as well. So again, not a matter of how many kills you find, it's a matter of when you find those kills and control. And for that being around 5, that felt like a really quick control. I feel like we had just gotten into it, but you think of how quick those first couple of rounds were. I mean, less than 60 seconds. Again, for that one going the distance, a super quick one, High Point walk away with it, and suddenly we're looking for Fortress for map 4.
Yeah, I mean, really the only long rounds there were both of those defensive wins where it just came down to either lives or time. But again, you have to kind of look to High Point. You know, what did they do? They were able to take 2 straight offensive rounds on FIU, but that one was clean and concise. And I really think it goes back to when they tried to send a few bodies back over towards A to shut down a restaurant hold when you saw how fast progress was going. So I don't really know the thought process on sending the whole cavalry back over there and then losing a few lives. I mean, ultimately it didn't come down to the lives being taken away, but you would have loved for Geo maybe to be able to pop a 2-piece in the bedroom. That's nitpicky. You know, it's a good trade from High Point. You know, it cut them the last time they were on offense. So, you know, now you're like, okay, well, we have to be watching for that. And they do. So, you know, regardless across the board, I think there were great moments from either of these two teams. It's just unfortunate that, you know, FIU weren't able to win back-to-back defenses, and the same thing could be said about High Point. You just made the proper and correct adjustments when you got the offense in round 5, and you were able to make the opposition pay.
Absolutely so. Talked about it coming into it. The respawn is where we favored them most highly to get an advantage in the series, and again, their maps 1 and 4 feel like givens. Florida International giving them a test, pushing them to limits in this respawn. We'll see. This hard point is going to be so telling for Florida International, and if they can really make convincing statements across the modes, even if they end up losing it, right? You said we haven't seen enough of them just to come out and show that, hey, in a series, we get to a map 4, we can make the adjustments from map 1 that we need to put ourselves in a situation to take it. And here for High Point, you have the ability to close out this series, to tie up your overall record at 4-4, and again, put yourselves in a great position here, already sitting well at the 6th seed in your division, respectively. You want to try to find a way to, like you said, climb those leaderboards even more so.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to 500 in the late aspects of the season is always going to be a good thing. But I mean, you think back again to the matches that they haven't played in their division yet against, you know, COD LSU and against Mox COD, and you think, okay, well, those are, you know, another 2 opportunities to be able to pole vault in the standings. But with LSU being able to move into the top 25, that's a formidable team that has gotten better with time throughout the year. And the same thing can be said for Mox COD. They're still definitely a formidable team, maybe not as powerful as we've seen them in recent years, especially you know, losing Click. But regardless of that fact, it doesn't change the fact that High Point was able to take a very, very influential respawn against FIU. Going back to your point, High Point were probably going to be able to win the 1 and 4 in this anyways. It was all probably going to come down to a Game 5 S&D if FIU were going to be able to take this series. But now that High Point's on match point going into this respawn in map number 4, I just genuinely don't know if FIU can be able to come back and overclimb the challenge that's ahead of them. I didn't believe them in match 2, so maybe that'll play a factor into this final map 4. But this is one of those feelings where I kind of genuinely feel like High Point is about to just kick it into another gear once again and just control the map for themselves like they were able to do on Embassy.
Yeah, you put a team like this in a position to close it out on their best favored, you name it, mode. They're going to want to try to do that. And for Florida International, Miggy has a slower respawn where, again, if maybe he takes things up, things look a little bit different. It was simply, you know, singular plays at a time. I know that's, you know, really a broad way to put it, but it was kind of 1-4 down for either of these teams that were giving them these rounds. The same thing for High Point there. They find a good 3 down, have players in proximity and collapse around it. Miggy nearly double negatives there. I don't want to simply, you know, call it out to shine a negative light on it, but everyone else was positive. For Florida International, we saw how, again, fast and loose he was playing in a search and destroy, right? If he can translate that to getting traction in a hard point, I definitely think Florida International could hotly contest this close quarters Fortress hard point. It's got to be one, though, where they have to come out of the gate swinging because as you had sized it up, High Point, so far, you're perfect in the respawns in this series, and they want to continue that to be the trend to try to close things out here.
I think when you're playing a slower S&D mode on Fortress, it's a lot easier to read your opposition and kind of read the map in general and have your kind of wide cone state on where everything is going to be. The problem I have with a hard point is that when things get a bit rough and the map starts to split itself up and people are on islands left by themselves, that's when FIU has struggled in this series. So hopefully that doesn't continue to be the case here, but it is FIU. We're going to be on the outside here for the opposite side of the map. High Point going to be able to get into P1 here first. First Blood's going to go the way of the Panthers as well, as Gonzi will at least cut one down in the middle of the map. Nice little 3-feed will leave crews across the map on the opposite side, but the spawns are still going to be close for High Point.
And with Gonzi taking that positioning, you're going to have split spawns coming in. Some of High Point players are going to be spawning on your right-hand side of the map. Time going the way of Florida International for now, but you can see the Panthers putting emphasis on Gallows, wanting to keep a player there at all costs. Try to influence these spawns. 20 seconds up for grabs. Neither team really concerned with it. High Point gonna snag it for now, but again, you can tell that Florida International, their eyes are set on P2 rotation, and they've got a couple gunfights to go their way.
3 down here for FIU, starting to make their way over towards P2. As Miggy hops out the doorway, that's the kind of Miggy that we wanted to see here in map number 4. The one that's going to aggressively challenge a gunfight. Bunny hop across the map, give himself the advantage in a 1 versus 1 gunfight, which then allows the rest of the team to get hot, move around him, and really force the advantage on themselves to the opposition. However, Sexton looking to make himself a nice little flank. Spots Wanchi out towards the corner. Wallbang shots are going to be good enough. Now he's going to try and snap to Miggy, who's got himself another double, make it 3. Tries to go for the 4th one in the cut them down for now. Contest heavy hill here so far, but FIU has taken the advantage in the majority of points here.
I mean, look at how hot of a start everyone is out to for Florida International. Everyone with at least 4 kills sitting positive as well. And again, I'm really excited for the Sexton v Miggy hardpoint that we're going to have. I think both of these SMGs are going to dictate the flow for their teams in this game. And you've won the rotation to P3. You won it to P2 as well. Florida International, we said they need to come out hot early in this hardpoint to make it contest heavy, to make them have the ability and positioning to be able to take this map. And they've done that just now.
Gonzi in the back line with the AR, looking for the double challenge here through the doorway. First one going to go his way. Trophy system out to help out Miggy as well. But you see Gio in a great spot here behind. Has a really, really high ground advantage on the High Point. As they start to make their way in, they've gotten a few kills to go their way. Miggy's the last one on the zone, 31 HP to his name to speak of, but the reinforcements will be here through the double doors because High Point hasn't gotten themselves far enough over towards the point to really make it a conceded effort, and now it's once again going to be all that effort, all that time expended for Hardpoint for nothing, as FIU will go ahead and hold down these scraps, as High Point will be forced to give up the rest of the map to rotate over towards the bottom of Art.
We are just not seeing the same High Point that we saw in map 1. I think it's more so a testament to how electric Florida International come out. They are bullying in the kill department. You have Gonzi out to double positive early on. You've got Miggy with 60 seconds in the hill. High Point need to make a stand here at P4. Sure, it's only a 50-point game, but again, you look at how quickly Florida International are moving around the map, the way their ARs are chopping down these long lines of sight. It's one that they're firmly in control of.
I mean, if this goes the opposite way and FIU managed to get this out of control like High Point did in map 1, I think Fortress becomes an auto veto in every given mode for High Point, even if they don't feel as comfortable on other maps. Regardless, again, it was only those first 3 hills that go through here. First 20 seconds of time was High Point, so FIU now on the break haven't been able to get in just yet, and it's still purple around the map in the kill feed.
For FIU, at least the saving grace being that you bleed a lot of the clock, let it sit empty. So even if they can get the rest of it, it's only going to be a tied game going into P5, about as good as you could be sitting, given your positioning around the map. A couple kills to go their way. You're going to collapse on these players in the site. Kruz able to snap for 1, but it will be all 4 down. Florida International get in for the back half of scrap time. Some split spawns coming in as we look to work towards P5. One that is no doubt going to play very back and forth.
Absolutely, but at least for now, FIU do have control in the middle of the map, which is oh so important at being able to lock this hill down if you do want to get any substantial time on it. Right now, Miggy with 1:23 in the hill and counting for his team. He is on the hill here now. Gonzi's just watching over it. So many difficult power positions to rip a few people off of, but a Sexton with the Vaznev in hand will be able to find the first. It will at least vacate the hill for the time being, as either team is now trying to scramble back to control here on the statue point.
Wanchi dealing a criminal amount of damage, finally able to get a couple of kills behind it. Gio with the 3rd as well. Panthers walking away with a majority of time once again here, lead back out to 50 points as we'll look to transition to P1 in about 20 or so seconds. Spawns a little everywhere, time still up for grabs. You've got Devilish in position for P1, but Wanchi quickly on the collapse here. Florida International as we kick off the second set of rotations, sitting in as good of a position as they'd want to.
This little challenge around the corner there. Wanchi unfortunately won't be able to win the gunfight as Sexton now makes his way up the map. The hill that we kind of, pitched up is like, yeah, it's going to be contest heavy. FIU walks away with a substantial chunk of time. And on a map, where scoreline is involved, kind of plays like Bocage, where you don't typically see large amounts of time being distributed between the two teams. A 50-60 point margin at this standstill with FIU still in sole possession of P1. Definitely for the confidence of High Point. Still tons of time left here in the second set of rotations. But regardless of that fact, it's going to need to be a much more concise and team-oriented effort here from High Point in the second half if they want a chance at being able to best this FIU team.
It really will be. And again, I think the decision-making ever since we've been through map 2, sure, they lost map 3, but for Florida International, they are dominating in the kills. Everyone positive, Miggy, close, but again, doing the objective work. But the way that they're finding kills and pushing out the lanes that they need to get rotation has been so telling of, again, the adjustments they've been willing to make since map 1. High Point, they're trying to do their best to battle back. They'll get a clean kill feed here and there, but they have not influenced the map the way Florida International have. P2 pops. They're now 30 seconds from tying this game up and taking a lead of their own. This is their best chance to rally back, is maybe Florida International taking a slower down tick.
I mean, you almost took the words completely out of my mouth. The best opportunity for substantial time that we've seen from High Point all game, besides when they rotated to where Gonzi's playing right now on bottom art. So, regardless, I think FIU with that break there, though, should be able to get themselves back on track to a bigger and more substantial lead. But, as long as High Point continue to throw bodies at this hill, regardless of where they are on the map, it's going to be difficult for either one of these two teams to really get any more substantial time in this game. I think we've come to a standstill where both teams are really starting to get their guns a bit more hot at the beginning. Hopefully FIU just doesn't slow down.
That's definitely what you were hoping if you were an FIU fan. They win P3 rotation once again, where, a full 60 here would simply put this game just about out of reach. You would like to say, High Point being on the other side, you can never count them out fully, but we have a tied game going into P3. It's all going to be to the side of the Panthers. High Point on the outside looking in once again. You have player 6 and Geo trying to cut these players down from mid-map to soften this push.
Time spread evenly, except for 2 players on High Point. You still have Miggy, who is in sole patrol of what FIU are trying to do, but as Brewing was able to accrue himself a streak after having a very lackluster start to this hard point here. It won't connect with anything in the back lines, and it'll just force the side of FIU to start spreading their hold out around the back side of the map, which isn't necessarily what High Point were hoping for. But regardless, they were eventually able to break through the double doors to the back 25 of this hill. So High Point should get some scraps here, but unfortunately that won't allow them to have at least the upper hand advantage on the rotation here to bottom art. FIU will be here, but a couple more gunfights that went purple in the kill feed should give High Point maybe a more statistical advantage. We'll just have to wait and see. 10 seconds left. Still a lot of bodies from each side around this initial hill.
It'll be 3 in the feed for FIU. Devilish the only player left, but he can get scrappy with things and look to buy time for his team. That's exactly what he's going to do. Finds another one. That's up to 4 in a row now. A couple more kills will grant you another streak that you could possibly use. And as your teammates look to get in, it's a clean and early break onto P4. You're starting to battle back into this game, right? We've got a 10-point deficit they're fighting back from, and Florida International scrambling to try to get in.
Oh, Devilish on 6 in a row. Streaks now yet again here from High Point. The players that were not having good games starting to tee up. The guns are warm, and they're starting to fly here on Fortress. 30 seconds left. Devilish putting FIU in a scramble. Miggy finally shuts down the last player on High Point that was streaking around the map. While all this has been happening, High Point have continued to hold down bottom art, and with 20 seconds left, if FIU are able to hold the rest of the scrap time, it should be about dead even as we get back to the opposite side of the map.
Florida International won the majority of time on P5 the last go around, but as you had said, High Point have arrived. Their guns warm, players starting to feel themselves in this one. You'd like to think it won't go that one-sided this time around, but for now it is Florida International once again with majority of mid-map control. They're yet to garner any time. They're going to try to clear out what they can, but it's a pinstripe kill feed that's only going to favor High Point as they look to try to keep the lead that they've already built.
Hilt has been untouched for the first 15 seconds. FIU trying to go ahead, control the middle of the map, but High Point, they want to make sure they can break out of the spawn trap that the side of the Panthers have them in at the moment. And as Miggy walks away with a gunfight onto Cruz, that'll shut down the first pit that that High Point are trying to get out of the door. And now as the challenge comes into the hill, it's Wanchi overlooking the top of the map that'll be able to walk away with 2, tries to go for the 3rd, but it's Brewing who's there for a nice trade. An 8-point game here. We're guaranteed at least another hard point. We'll probably see a rotation back to P2 as well.
High Point doing what they can now to win some of these rotations. They want to have this side of the map as P1 pops, and they want to try to keep it when we look to go to P2. As you said, we will probably go that way. And for the Panthers, you've seen FIU get these kills. They push out Gallows and Gateside so heavy. They want to influence these spawns early on. You already see a couple players bottom art. You already see them flying through the back. This is exactly what they want to do to control the map. Split spawns coming in, a pinch potential on the cards for them, but it's High Point University getting time.
We've seen plenty of lead switches here in the late game on Fortress. It's been a while, Amber, since we've had a close down to the wire hard point, but I am loving what I'm seeing right now. 25 seconds. Wanchi had earned a streak, and now he's going to use it here over P1. Can he find anything substantial with it? No. Hello, trophy system. We love it. 15 seconds for High Point. 25 on the hill. Still time to win it here, but the break is in from FIU.
They get the break. They have P2 spawns. They are doing everything they can to push this to another hill. They're going to have to stay in here for the next 10 or so seconds just to force it to P2, and I think they've bought themselves just enough time with that kill that Geo finds. A huge triple there. They have P2 spawns. They've done everything they needed to stay alive in this one. It's got to be a clinical P2 who will split spawns come in. 3 down in the feed. You're surrounded if you're Miggy, and you're going to go down. 9 seconds needed to close this out.
They had them all rotated, but FIU, they lost the gunfights on rotation. High Point were there, and now it's a foot race once again back over towards the hill. Geo finds the first. The contention is in, but it's Cruz who's able to walk away with a few kills. 48 seconds left, but it's 30 that FIU are going to need here. High Point trying to break in yet again, and will they be able to do it? Brewing through the front door. Answer, no to Geo. Cruz trying to snap back and will. Pinstripe kill feed. 3 seconds for High Point, but it's still FIU who are in.
Back and forth we go. Sexton able to get on with the contest coming in. Sexton finds a 2-piece to try to close this one out. Wanchi, you gotta go. You gotta get a toe in, and you're not able to. High Point Esports do everything they can, set the win condition, and put themselves in prime position to close it out. Though the Panthers were able to rally back at the tail end of P2, it is High Point who walk away with that one to close the series out.
It's like, I know you don't want to push in and give yourself a bad position, but you're not really in a position where you can sit on the outside. There's 3 seconds left. They were at 248. You just had to make your push in, and unfortunately, it doesn't come quick enough. And with a 250 to 235 scoreline and a 15-point victory to High Point, you got to tip it. It flipped around on that second set of rotations we said it was going to need to.
Yep.
And it did.
It absolutely did. I mean, they got so handedly outslayed the first set of rotations that they still got outslayed at the closure of the game and found a way to win. Once again, I mean, I think for High Point, the thing is to say, you don't have to be bullying people around the map to find a way to close things out. Where they had open time to grab, they were able to snag it. Again, I think it kicked off on that P4 where they had won a majority of that time, the second set of rotations. They did a good job at really contesting P5 where they didn't the first to go around. And again, the lion's share of time on P1 as well put them at a point where they kind of could pick and choose. The pressure wasn't on them to win P2 rotation and to put pressure on. They were able to say, hey, we need 15 seconds to close this out. Sexton with a big 2-piece. You buy time for the reinforcements to get in to close it out. And it was down to the wire. And again, that's not to doom and gloom on FIU, right? I mean, that was a very stout hard point they put up. We haven't seen a lot of this team as far as live action goes. And I'll be honest, though they lost the series, I'm impressed with what I've seen.
Absolutely. And again, like, you know, I will eat my words here and say, like, yeah, map 2, going into the Fortress Search and Destroy, I didn't think FIU were going to be able to pull it off. What do? They win 6-2. They come back on the Fortress Hardpoint. I'm like, they're probably done here. High Point's really got themselves a high prowess when it comes to the respawns. And what do? They almost win it. They had a great lead going into the second half. High Point started to get a little hot, though. Multiple streaks were earned. And although they didn't really connect, they forced players out of position, and it changed the complexion of the game. So when all is said and done in this series, I think High Point need to be a bit more careful because this FIU roster is, I don't want to say a dark horse, you know, top 32 contender. They're definitely a little more scary than I had kind of thought them to be. So if they clean up a few of their maps, maybe get a little bit better on things like Embassy, because they're auto vetoing Hotel, which you're going to need to get better at some point or another, because there are going to be worse maps you're going to have to veto out of your system. That's where you're going to need to focus next. So maybe not, you know, forcing yourself to play a different map pool within your matches. You want to obviously take the wins where you can get them, but being able to just expand things beyond just banning double hotel in a series needs to be the game plan.
Yeah. And again, though, FIU lose that, 3 players with over 4,000 damage, kind of unreal. I mean, again, they were all peppering. I mean, sure, you'll say, you know, you'll give Sexton the 4,000 damage there with about as close as you can get without having it. And I just, for Florida National, I think you nailed it. You know, you're gonna have to expand that map pool a bit. But both of these teams, I think the biggest point, and again, for even teams at home watching, right? You have to find a way to show upward trajectory continually. Don't look to plateau at the end of the season and end up bowing out of the tournament early. We've seen enough from both High Point and Florida International to say, okay, again, you continue to show trajectory in the right direction. You could absolutely make a run in the playoffs that maybe at the start of the season you didn't think was possible.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that, you know, there's only like what one week left of league play.
Yeah.
Before we start getting into the OCQ or LCQ talk, again, good news, both of these teams already guaranteed a playoff spot, but this match was more or less for trying to get themselves both in the top 8. For FIU, those chances look very slim now, dropping down to a 3-7 record. High Point back at even at 4-4. It's not going to guarantee them top 8 in the first round bye, but it's going to be pretty damn close for them. But regardless, you know, after that first hard point on Embassy, things really started to turn around. It became a very close series. FIU showed great prowess in that second map in the Fortress Search and Destroy. That Hotel and Fortress back-to-back in both our control and hard point modes respectively were both very close. It's just High Point had the ice at the end. We're able to edge them out over FIU in late game decisions where, you know, FIU just maybe couldn't hold a lane down or, you know, couldn't get a trade for somebody else over the top. Costed them in the end, and that's where it was all said and done. That's how FIU were, unfortunately, going to lose that series.
Absolutely so. Both teams putting on a performance. Again, the way FIU was able to rebound after map 1 and make it a hotly contested series, and the way High Point was able to clutch up, right? It was a round 5 control. Yep. It was a 15-point hard point. So, again, great things, great signs out of both of these teams, and I'm excited to see what they continue to do the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Before we send things to break, once again, thank you to the people that make collegiate Call of Duty possible here at College COD, fandom, and of course, America's Navy. Higher education isn't always an affordable option for young adults seeking that life-changing degree, but it doesn't always have to be that way. With America's Navy, they offer ROTC scholarships upwards of $180,000. You heard that right, $180,000, which not only pays for full college tuitions for students with exceptional and academic leadership credentials, but it allows them to take advantage of their incredible lineup of different career paths that you're able to take with the Navy. Think you fit that description? Visit Navy.com to learn more. And once again, thank you to America's Navy for being a huge part of the CCL. Regardless to that fact, we are going to send things to a break. When we come back, it's our final matchup of the night. We'll go back up to the Northeast where Ontario Tech will be taking on the 10th ranked Farmingdale State. Don't go too far. The last match of the night of day 1 of week 5 will be around the corner in just a sec.